guys, and welcome to our very first 2D graphics tutorial in Python. So I'm going to be using the library or package Pygame, okay? So basically Pygame was created by somebody called Pete Shinners in the year 2000, and its official release date was October 28th in the year 2000. So Pete Shinners, whenever he made a graphical game app, he always needed to use C code to use SDL, which is Simple Direct Media Layer. So first let's download Pygame by going to the terminal or command prompt if you're on Windows. You'll type pip3, and you only type pip3 if you're on Mac, and Linux and Windows will just say pip. Install Pygame, and it will say, if you already have it, it will say requirement already satisfied, and if you don't, it will take you through an installation guide, and that's it. So let's start with our very first piece of code. We're going to say import Pygame. So here you get a little description. Pygame is a set of Python modules designed for writing games. It is written on top of the excellent SDL library, okay? And you can use it with Windows, Mac, BOS, OS X, and Linux. So it's very widely used. And it's also one of the most popular libraries to use. Now we'll say we want to import something called SYS, because when we run Python code, we initialize a Pygame library, what it will do is it will make two processes, one called Python and one called Pygame. Pygame will automatically close itself when you say pygame.quit, but we will still have a .python still running. So we will close that using sys.quit, okay? So first we want to initialize Pygame. We'll say pygame.init, and that's it. We will want to define our window. So we'll say window is equal to, now we'll get to accessing Pygame's libraries. Pygame dot display. Okay, it has many. It even has like draw and many more, but we're going to be using its display module, and we'll say set mode. So when you use set mode, we will be allowed to input its dimensions, okay? So we'll just say 600 pixels by 400 pixels. And whenever we're saying that, the standard format is X and Y. So it will be more flat than it is in height. Okay, now we'll say pygame.display.set caption, which will allow us to set our caption, which basically means a title, okay? So we want it, I want it to be blue window with circle. You guys can name it anything, if it's asteroids, Tetris, your own game, whatever. So it will just, at the top when we run, it will give us the title in black, okay? So it's important because we will give it a name. Now we will give some colors. We'll say blue is equal to, now Pygame uses a RGB format, so it will be in 000 to 255, 255, 255. So R stands for red, G for green, and B for blue. So for blue, we wanted full blue, none of the rest. So we'll say 0, 0, and 255. I'll write the format right here. R to G to B. So basically it's a type of ratio. So we want 0 red, 0 green, but all blue. Now we want to define our white. So white is a mixture of all of them. So we'll say 255, 255, 255. Alright? Okay, so now let's get to our main game loop. So the main game loop will be while true, which basically means forever. It will keep running. So before we get to any actions with our drawing functions and filling the screen, we first want to make sure that we can close our window. And we can do that by first extracting Pygame's events, which means like close, click, space, whatever. So we'll say for event in Pygame dot event dot get. So if I run this without the for event, it will just give me thousands of Python events with all of its descriptions. For example, its type, its name, its everything. So here we will say if our event.type is equal to Pygame's quit action, we'll say Pygame.quit, which is what I said. When we say Pygame.quit, we are quitting the window. And we also say sys.quit to quit the executable. Alright, now let's give our screen a color. We'll say window.fill and our color, which in this case is blue. Now you can just replace blue with the parentheses and whatever you want, but I like to do the variables because let's say I will use it again later. It's just much easier than typing it again and again and again. So we'll say, now let's say we want to add a circle, okay? We'll say Pygame.draw, so we're using the draw module, not the display module here, or the event, dot, and we get a ton of stuff, ellipse, circle, arc, polygon, rect, we have a ton of stuff. So basically today we just want to draw a circle, and we have a ton of parameters. The surface, which is the screen we'll be using it on, which in this case is window, or whatever you name this part when you say Pygame.display. And here we'll be setting our color value, which is white. And then we'll be setting our center or coordinate. That means in what position do I want my circle to be in? I want it to be in 300 by 200. So it should be in the exact center. And we also need to give a radius, which is 50 pixels, okay? Whenever you say here radius or even size or dimension, we're talking about pixels. And width and the others will just not go with because they're kind of complicated, and I just want this to be an introductory video. Now at the end, we just need to add a Pygame.display.flip, which will flip our display, or basically update it every single 60th of a second, which is the default frame rate, 60 FPS per second. Or it will also run on your hertz, which is what your CPU runs on. Alright, so let's run this. Click run, and you should get something called Python. We will change the icon in a later video. It's going to be a little complicated. And look at that. We have our caption, blue window with circle. It matches the exact description up here. And we have our filled screen and our circle in the middle. Now, what if we put the circle before the fill? So let me just copy this and say, and we put it here. So what would happen is that we would draw a circle on a blank screen. It would be filled with blue. So we expect it to be just blue. Yeah. So this is why you always need to add your fill at the very top of the code, right before the event. Because this will mean that we'll just get a screen at the end. But if we make it, we'll fill it with blue, and then it will change. then we get a nice. So let's put it back, and it will work. Alright, so when we say pygame.quit, we're closing this, okay? But when we say sys.quit, we're also closing this, Python. If we did not have this little piece of code, what I would have to do is I would have to go here. I would have to click force quit. I would have to select Python and force quit. It would not close ever unless force quitting it. So we need to have these 5 lines of code in every single project you make. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time, where we will learn how to add more objects and also maybe make them move.